What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today, we'll be chatting with Ky Carlin of Locked On Sixers as Joel Embiid has just been utterly dominant in this recent stretch of games for the Sixers. Is he the favorite to win the MVP award this season? Also, how have the Sixers been handling the Ben Simmons saga to this point, and what are the expectations going into the NBA trade deadline? But first, a quick message from our friends over at Built Bar, because look, it is the new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolutions because it tastes so good, you'll want to eat it, unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky or gritty or the consistency is just a little bit off. And don't even get me started on the flavors with Built Bar. So many great options to choose from. You got strawberry, mint brownie, peanut butter, double chocolate. My personal favorite, coconut brownie chunk. Can't go wrong with a single bar on their menu. Oh, cookies and cream. Can't forget about cookies and cream. Such a staple. But you can check them out. Just visit built.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your very next order of the best tasting protein bars on the market. Again, that's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. Joining us now is Ky Carlin of Locked On Sixers. Ky, welcome to the program. Let's talk a little Philadelphia 76ers here, sitting at 30-19, number 3 in the Eastern Conference, 10th in offensive rating, 10th in defensive rating. The Sixers have looked pretty good this year, despite no Ben Simmons in the lineup, in the roster, all the question marks surrounding him. We're going to get to him in just a moment here, but I want to start with Joel Embiid, who's just been an absolute monster this season. And at this point, I think he's my favorite, at least, to win the MVP award. He has been so impressive in this recent stretch of games. He had 50 points in 27 minutes, 38 and 31, 42 and 33. I mean, over these last 6 games, he's averaging almost 39 points an outing, 12 boards, 5 assists, 2 blocks. Just how dominant has Joel Embiid been over this recent stretch of games and the season as a whole?
It's been really impressive, Jackson. Like the whole thing with Joel has always been, can you rely on him? Can you be able to rely on him to play as many games as he possibly can? Can he play the minutes? Can he carry such a heavy load? That was such a huge question mark going into this year because it was always him and Ben Simmons, right? So now that Ben's out, it's really Joel and Tobias Harris. I mean, for a little bit, but you can just tell Tobias misses Ben Simmons, but we'll get to that later. But just Joel, his impact on the floor, carrying this team, being a leader for this team, really on both ends of the floor. It's not just him on the offensive end; it's him kind of directing things on the defensive end. He's speaking a bit more. He's talking more, which is something that Joel never really did in the past. I remember specifically going into the bubble. We're all on the Zoom conference call with Joel, and Joel was asked about his leadership, and he said, "I lead in practice. I don't speak. I don't talk to these guys. I come to the gym. I go home." So this year you kind of see that there is a difference. He is actually pulling guys to the side. He is directing things out on the floor. He is getting a relationship with his teammates off the floor as well, which is really something you didn't see in the past. So I think he kind of finally understands that what he has to do in order for this team to have success, and you could just see it out on the floor each and every night.
So not just the dominance that we're seeing as far as like the box score numbers, but also just the growth and development as the true leader and face of this Sixers team and franchise.
Yeah, because Jackson, you can always put up big numbers, right? As an NBA player, an NBA star with the talent that Joel Embiid is, you can always have big numbers. But in order to truly take the next step forward as both a leader and as a guy who can lead his team to wins each and every night, be consistent, you have to be able to understand what it's going to take to do that, which means being in the gym constantly, pulling teammates to the side and being a leader, talking to them, being able to take the next step forward on both ends of the floor, talking a bit more, and just really doing everything that pretty much involves leadership. And that's something Joel really didn't understand in the past. And you can just tell that this year he's doing that more and more each and every night. And that's why the Sixers are 30-19, despite the Ben Simmons saga, which is ridiculous, and just everything with the injuries and COVID and everything else.
I'm glad you highlight the Ben Simmons saga because we've got to talk about that here. I mean, he's been the topic of so much speculation, Ky, most recently linked heavily to the Sacramento Kings. But it apparently, the Kings are going to be turning their attention elsewhere, at least for the time being, based on, the reporting that's out there. Sixers are also reportedly, having their eyes set on potentially James Harden this upcoming summer. So to this point, Ky, what is your assessment of how Daryl Morey and the Sixers organization have handled the Ben Simmons saga to this point? And, in your eyes, is it a mistake to maybe be almost kind of punting on this season or this situation with Simmons in favor of chasing a bigger name this upcoming summer with, the reported links to James Harden?
Well, for me, it was always James Harden. This team was always had their eye on James Harden, and it's because of Daryl Morey's relationship with James from their time with the Houston Rockets. I'm pretty sure we could all figure that out, right? But for me, Jackson, I don't know what to make of it because you don't want to waste this season from Joel, right? I mean, he's having the best season of his career, and if you could just get him a little bit of help, then we would seriously consider this team to maybe beat a Brooklyn, or a Milwaukee, or a Miami, because the Heat are having a great season too. Come playoff time. But at this moment in time, nobody's really considering the Sixers as a true title contender because there's not another star next to Joel, and it does kind of seem that they are wasting this season, because he may be 27, but with all the injuries on that he has sustained in his career and that he has had to go through, you never know how long his prime is going to be, right? Like, in my opinion, I don't think his prime is going to be as long as, say, a LeBron James or a Kevin Durant, or even or Kobe's. Like, Joel's prime isn't going to be all that long. You never know how long Joel is going to be Joel. So it does seem like they're wasting this season. They're punting on it, and then they're going to try again next year. But at the same time, you don't want to just trade Ben Simmons for nothing because we all know how good he is when his mind is right. So it's a tough situation to like really judge on because of all the factors that are at play.
It's definitely a fine line to straddle, risking the short-term potential production if you were to get back even just a little bit of added help for Embiid versus if you pair up James Harden and Joel Embiid in the Eastern Conference. I mean, that's going to be a perennial contender for as long as those two guys can stay on the floor and stay healthy. But Ky, Tyrese Maxey is a guy who's really stepped up, and he's had an exceptional year. He's helped to fill that Ben Simmons sized hole in the Sixers roster. Are you at all surprised at the jump that he's made this season? And what's it been like kind of seeing his growth and development up close?
I'm not surprised in terms of him taking a step forward because the kid's such a gym rat. Like, you could just the kid's always in the gym. Like, he's always posting on his Instagram story that he's in the Sixers practice facility on an everyday basis. I think it's hilarious. And Doc Rivers always says, like, "Yo, we're trying to give him a blackout day, and we can't." He's always sneaking his way into the gym. It's annoying. So the jump really isn't a surprise, but really, Jackson, the thing that stands out to me is his 3-point shooting. He went from 30% as a rookie to 40% this season. That's a huge jump. Now, he's only taking, I think, somewhere around 3.5 threes a game. It's not like he's taking him in high volume, but the fact that he's going from 30% to 40% is such a huge, it's a huge help, obviously. And it's kind of a huge difference considering Ben wouldn't even shoot the ball at the point guard spot. So now that you have a point guard that can actually shoot the ball and drive to the basket and things like that, it's definitely a big help. The thing with Tyrese, though, he's kind of still trying to get down the balance of being a scorer and also getting his teammates involved. You can just see it. There are times where you can just see he's thinking out there too much. I got to get Joel involved. I got to get Tobias the ball, but I also got to get my own bucket. So there's like, his development overall has been impressive, but there are still little things here and there that he has to improve on defensively as well.
Last thing here, Ky, what's the latest on Shake Milton and his injury situation?
Now, Doc says he can still beat Shake in a race. So I'm pretty sure that just kind of tells you how long Shake still has to go. Listen, it's a back injury. I think we both know how tricky back injuries can be. So the Sixers are going to try to, push. They're not going to push him too much. They're going to try to just ease him back into it and just see what he can do. But they definitely miss him in terms of having another ball handler out there.
Ky, you're going to have us covered for everything Sixers over at Locked On Sixers with co-host Keith Pompey. As always, appreciate you stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
I appreciate that, Jackson. Thank you so much.